I found out my fiance was cheating on me at our own engagement party. Not before it. Not after it. During it. I was standing in the middle of a room full of people who loved us, holding a glass of champagne, wearing the dress I had bought specifically for that evening, and my phone buzzed with a message from a number I did not recognize. The message was 3 words. Ask him where he was last Tuesday. I looked across the room at Thomas. He was laughing at something my father had said. He looked relaxed and happy, and completely at ease in the way that people look when they have no idea the ground is about to open beneath them. I put my phone in my bag. I smiled at everyone who caught my eye, and I finished that party. My name is Kate. I am 31 years old. I am a graphic designer from Liverpool, and I'm going to tell you the full story of the night. Everything I thought my future looked like turned out to be something else entirely, and what I chose to do about it. Thomas and I had been together for 3 years before he proposed. 3 years that had felt, to me at least, completely genuine. He was attentive in the early months. The kind of attentive that makes you feel genuinely chosen rather than simply convenient. And even as the relationship settled into something more ordinary over time, I never doubted that he wanted to be with me. He was consistent, reliable, the kind of man who did what he said he would do. Or so I believed. The proposal happened on a Friday evening in December. We had been out for dinner at a restaurant we both loved. Nothing unusual about it. And walking home, he stopped on a bridge over the canal and said, "I have been trying to figure out the right moment for this for about 6 months. And I think the right moment is just whenever you are standing next to me." He got down on one knee, right there on that bridge. I said yes immediately. I was crying before the ring was on my finger. The engagement period was, and I say this knowing what came after, one of the happiest times of my life. We set a date. We started looking at venues. My mother and I spent several weekends visiting places and having the kind of conversations that mothers and daughters have when something large and good is on the horizon. I felt settled in a way I had been quietly hoping for years. The engagement party was my mother's idea. She wanted to celebrate properly, she said, to mark it officially with the people who mattered to us. We held it at my parents' house on a Saturday evening in February, about 8 weeks after the proposal. 40 people. Good food. The kind of evening that feels warm and uncomplicated from the outside. From the outside. When the message arrived, I was standing near the kitchen door talking to Thomas's sister. I felt my phone buzz and I glanced at it automatically the way you do at a party, expecting nothing in particular. Ask him where he was last Tuesday. Unknown number. No name. Nothing else. I read it 3 times. And then I did something that I think surprised even me. I put my phone back in my bag. I smiled at Thomas's sister and continued the conversation we had been having. I went and refilled my champagne glass. I talked to my grandmother for 20 minutes about her garden. I helped my mother carry plates into the kitchen. I finished the party. I do not fully know why I made that choice in the moment. Some part of me, I think, understood that whatever that message meant, I needed to find out properly before I did anything. I did not want to make a scene at my own engagement party based on 3 words from an unknown number. I did not want to give whatever this was the power to destroy that evening publicly before I even knew what it was. So I waited. The last guest left at midnight. Thomas was helping my father stack chairs in the dining room. I stood in the kitchen with my mother, and I told her I was tired and that we would talk tomorrow, and she kissed me on the cheek and said it had been a perfect evening. In the car on the way home, I said, "Where were you last Tuesday?" Thomas was driving. He did not look at me, but I saw something change in his posture. A very slight shift, almost imperceptible, that told me everything before he said a single word. He said, "At the office. Why?" I said, "All evening?" He said, "Most of it." I went for a drink with someone from the team afterward. Why are you asking? I took my phone out of my bag and I held it where he could see the screen without taking his eyes too far off the road. He read the message. The car went very quiet. He pulled over. We were on a residential street I did not recognize, 3 miles from my parents' house, and he pulled over and turned off the engine and sat there with both hands still on the steering wheel. He did not deny it. I want to tell you how I felt in that moment, because I think it matters. I did not feel the things I expected to feel. I had always imagined that if something like this ever happened to me, I would cry, or shout, or feel the kind of sharp, overwhelming pain that you see in films when this kind of revelation happens. What I felt was something much colder and much quieter than any of that. I felt absolutely certain that I knew, in that car on that street, everything I needed to know to make the only decision that actually made sense. I asked him how long. He said 4 months. I asked him who. He told me. A woman he had met through work. Someone I had never heard of. Someone who, it turned out, had sent me that message from a number I did not recognize, because she had found out about me and had decided, for her own reasons, that I deserved to know. I asked him if he loved her. He said he did not know. I took the ring off my finger. I put it in the Q folder between our seats, and I got out of the car. I walked for about 20 minutes before I called my sister. It was after midnight, and she answered immediately the way people do when they have been half waiting for a call they hoped would not come. I told her what had happened. She came to get me. She did not say much on the drive back to her flat, just reached across and held my hand on the seat between us. That night, I lay in my sister's spare room and I did not sleep at all. I did not spend the night crying. I spent it thinking, going back through 3 years looking for the moments I had missed, the things that had not quite added up, the times when something had felt slightly off and I had explained it away because the alternative was too uncomfortable to sit with. There were moments. There always are, in hindsight. A weekend he had told me he was visiting a friend I had never met. An evening when he had come home later than expected, and the explanation had been slightly too detailed. Small things that had not individually alarmed me, but that now, assembled together in the quiet of my sister's spare room, formed a pattern I could not stop seeing. I texted Thomas once the following morning. I said, "I will be collecting my things from the flat next Saturday. Please make sure you are not there." He replied immediately. He said he was sorry. He said he wanted to talk. He said it had been a mistake, and he had been trying to end it. I did not reply to any of that. I spent the following week doing the things that needed to be done. I called the venue we had looked at and explained that the wedding was not happening. The woman on the phone was kind about it in a way that I found unexpectedly moving. I called the florist we had been in contact with. I sent a message to the small group of friends who had known about the engagement, asking them to spread the word quietly, so I would not have to repeat the story more times than necessary. My mother was devastated in a way that had its own particular weight to it. She had loved Thomas. She had been, I think, almost as invested in that future as I had. Watching her process, it was in some ways harder than processing it myself because I could not fix it. For her, the way she had always been able to, in her own way, fix things for me. My father said very little. He made tea, and he sat with me in the kitchen and he said, once, quietly, "You are going to be fine." And then he said nothing else about it. That was exactly what I needed. The months that followed were strange in a specific way that I had not expected. People are very kind when something like this happens, that the kindness has a shelf life. After a certain point, the world moves on and expects you to have moved on with it, and you are left navigating the gap between how you actually feel and how recovered you are supposed to appear. I was not recovered for a long time, not because I still loved Thomas, though there was grief in the loss of him that I did not want to minimize by pretending it was not there. But because losing the engagement felt like losing a version of the future I had started to live in already. The venue visits, the conversations with my mother, the ring on my finger for 8 weeks. All of it had been real to me, and the fact that it had been built on something false did not make the loss of it feel any less real. I want to be honest about the anger too. It came later than I expected, arriving quietly about 3 months after everything. And it was not directed only at Thomas. Some of it was directed at myself, for not noticing sooner, for having trusted so completely, for standing in a room full of people at my own engagement party and not knowing what was actually happening. Therapy helped with that. My therapist said something I have thought about many times since. She said, "The fact that you did not know is not evidence of naivety. It is evidence of trust, and trust is not a flaw. What happened is not a reflection of your judgment. It is a reflection of his choices." I'm not going to tell you there was a clean resolution. There was not. Life does not always offer those. What I can tell you is that 2 years on I am genuinely well. Not performing wellness. Actually well. I have a flat of my own that I chose entirely for myself, for the first time in my adult life, without considering anyone else's preferences. I have thrown myself into my work in a way I had not allowed myself to do when I was planning a shared future with someone else at the center of everything. I have not seen Thomas since I collected my things from his flat that Saturday. He has reached out twice, once about 3 months after, and once at Christmas. I did not reply to either message, not from cruelty. There is no cruelty in it. I simply have nothing left to say to him and no need for whatever he might want to offer now. The woman who sent me that message from the unknown number. I thought about her for a long time after everything. What her reasons were. Whether she had known about me from the beginning or discovered me later. Whether sending that message had cost her something, or whether she had sent it with no particular feeling at all. I decided eventually that it did not matter. Whatever her reasons, she gave me the information I needed to make a decision I might otherwise not have made until much later. I do not feel gratitude exactly, but I do not feel anger either. I feel, mostly, a very clear-eyed understanding of how close I came to a life that would not have been what I thought it was. That understanding, uncomfortable as it was to arrive at, is the thing I am most grateful for. I took the ring off at midnight on the night of my engagement party, and everything that has happened since has been entirely mine.